Senator Francis Heiliger, you're recognized for your 7 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon to the people of the territory. Good afternoon to the testifiers.
Hold the senator's time. Please recognize the mic of Senator Francis Heiliger.
Good. There we go. Good afternoon to the people of the territory. Good afternoon to the testifiers, as well as the staff, central staff alike. I want to start off by extending my condolences to the Virgin Islands Police Department on the loss of Detective Phipps, participating in quite a bit of the activities, as well as his homegoing service. Just being there, it was a very somber but heartwarming feeling to see so many came out in our community to send him off in such a positive way. One of the things I want to ask first, though, is how are your officers doing? Because even though we're talking about our budget, you know, when it comes to their mental well-being, therapist, is that included in your budget? Things of that nature to make sure that our officers are doing okay in order to do their jobs to the best of their ability.
Well, first of all, thank you, Senator. That's much appreciated. The use of therapists, those are all things that are under our other services category. And you know, while we have an in-house psychologist, she would be overwhelmed trying to deal with the entire department. So we do contract a number of those services out as well. In this particular case with Detective Phipps, we had such overwhelming support from the community and with counselors that we never received. They came in, they counseled our folks, our counselor officers, and we've had counseling as late as a day before yesterday, 2 days ago. And it's not cost us a dime.
And I'm happy to hear how the community came together to really support the VIPD in this unfortunate situation. I want to jump in a little bit to some of the things that you talked about. As you know, this overtime situation and clearly our need for more officers. You spoke about the cadet program. What is there a time frame for that program to begin? How do you plan on having it implemented? Have you done any cost analysis to see if it's additional monies you need in the budget? How does that program work?
So the cadet program, again, we're going, most of the funding for the cadet program is actually going to come through the Department of Education. Okay. And that's why we're working on this extensive MOU with them. As a matter of fact, I would venture to say that we're about 75% complete with the MOU. There are some a couple of things that we need to streamline and iron out. In addition to that, Senator, we have the cadet program. One of the things that we're going to do from a departmental standpoint is to probably create the position of a manager so we don't have to take a police person out there. The same thing that we did pretty much with Weed and Seed and PAL to take away our officers from running those functions that can be run from the civilian side of the house, and to get a coordinator there as well. We're hoping that education will fund that as well because of the monies that they have to put towards the program.
Okay, good. One of my issues that I spoke to last year, I believe, was my concern about making sure that there's a demarcation between people that are coming in to speak to officers versus those that are there answering the phones, because that was a major distraction. When you are a victim coming into the police department and you need to speak to someone right away, and you're in a situation where the officer is talking to you and you're telling them what's happening and they say, hold on, let me answer the phone. And they've done that 10 times during just making a report. That does not aid with helping that victim feeling like they're getting. What do you plan to do about that? Because you told me you were going to try to do something last year, but is it in this budget to make sure that that is covered?
It should be, Senator. As a matter of fact, just Director Richards and I think Monday, signed off on the request to create, to the Division of Personnel, to create the positions, again, of PBX operators
Okay.
in both districts, which would take that responsibility away from the desk officers. And we should be hiring those personnel in extremely short order, even before the end of the fiscal year.
Very happy to hear that, and I'm sure the residents of this territory will be. The consent decree. I know there's a huge cost that's added in regards to this consent decree, and for me, I would like to get us from out of under it as quickly as possible. And one of the things have to do with officers. How many officers do you have currently that are suspended with pay versus those that are suspended without pay? And do you anticipate those individuals being out? What kind of impact would it have on your budget as it relates to overtime until some of these situations are resolved?
All right. So, to the best of my knowledge, we do not. When we talk about officers suspended with pay, we're talking about extensive suspensions. So I don't believe in that. So I do not have any officers on a paid vacation at the department's expense as we speak. Yeah. We do have officers that are serving suspensions, small suspensions for violations of our rules and procedures.
1 minute.
Those suspensions may be anywhere from 3 days on up to 5 days. So we do have officers that are out daily with being suspended.
Anyone on any long-term suspensions?
We do have individuals on long-term suspensions, probably I would say less than 5, but none of them are being paid.
Okay. I wanted to talk about the grant awards that you guys deal
30
with.
seconds.
And one of the things you talked about had to do with the spotters.
Shot spotter?
The shot spotters. How is that working out for you? Because I'm going to say something. Unfortunately, the morning where Detective Phipps was killed, I was one of those that heard those shots ring out. And I'm going to be honest with you, I literally used to be one of those individuals that every time that happened, I would pick up the phone and call 911.
Time.
And Madam Chair, may I finish up quickly? Thank you. And when it got to the point that I kept calling 911, and they would say, well, we can't do anything about it. The officers will go check it out after the fact. I had a lot of hopes when the shot spotters came in, but then in speaking to individuals, they also said that even with that, they're not gonna drive and go straight in there. How do you deal with that? Because, you know, it's almost like our people are becoming desensitized to all of these shootings and hearing these guns. And, you know, I'm sitting down there trying to figure out what types of models they are, because some of them have some serious impact that you wouldn't even think that people should be walking around with guns of that sort. So please explain to me how this shot spotter system is working. Do you need more money? Explain to me a little bit how it's supposed to help the community.
Certainly. So what ShotSpotter does, it's a gunshot detection system. When wherever we have the monitors, once a gunshot is heard, it sends an alert directly to 911, as well as it sends the alert out to all of us, to include our officers that choose to have the alert system even on their personal cellular phones. With that, it gives the area, the general area, up to within 10 feet of where the firearm discharge was detected. We have a number of our officers begin to go towards those shots, to respond to those shots even before 911 dispatches them. What it does also is it gives us the opportunity, instead of, because of how we live and the area we live, you have the tendency for the sound to echo, where it may appear that it is one place when it's actually somewhere else. With ShotSpotter, our officers, again, can respond, and with GPS, they can utilize to get within 10 feet of where the transponder or says that those shots went off.
So it's helping.
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Okay. Well, my time has been called, but I really do hope that you guys continue to, deal with what you're doing to help our community, and hopefully we give you the type of budget that you need to continue to do a good job. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Senator.
Madam Chair, for the additional time.
Thank you, Senator Francis Heiliger. Senator Francis Heiliger, you're recognized for your point of information.
I just wanted to put on the record that, as well as my colleague going through the transparency website, I too sometimes are a little bit taken back, because based on what you're sharing with the public, you have several officers that have become multimillionaires just by being a cop. Let's be real here. And unfortunately, when I was doing some research about this, like, for example, I think in the state of New York, they were having a similar problem, and they went in and they put a cap on the maximum, even with overtime, some officers could make. So I don't know from a legislative standpoint if we have to go in and clean this up a little bit, but I am thinking for the type of money we're paying out, we should have a whole lot of crime solved, because we're paying for $1 million brains. That's what we're doing.
Well, Senator, we have a lot of crime being solved,
Okay.
whether they're making an overabundance of overtime or not. My guys are doing a tremendous job when it comes to solving crime. Okay, for instance, we're here right now today where we have, unfortunately, 27 murders for the year, and the success of a department is generally judged based on how many murders you have or how many murders you solve. Mm-hmm. So we have 27 unfortunate murders for the fiscal year. But of those 27 murders, we have 17 arrests. The national average is 33%. Do the math. My guys, I got the best in the world, okay? We got our shortcomings, we got our faults, but this department, second to none. Trust me on that. And I stand by that.
Well, thank you so much for the time, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Francis Heiliger. You're recognized for your point of information, Senator Francis
Thank
Heiliger.
you, Madam Chair. My point of information specifically has to do with monitors. What is the cost to the individual that has to wear the monitor, as well as are there, well, from what I understand, just for clarity, when someone has to be at home under lockdown and they have to wear a monitor, what cost is it to them versus what's the cost to the police department? Is some of that offset? Because I want to make sure that enough funding is provided if anything is needed on your behalf because of that. Thank you.
Senator, the cost of monitoring is not a VIPD thing, but if you have the a cost for that you want to pay, you can put it towards our overtime.
I know I'm.
No, but that's a court. That's a superior court that deals with that cost.
Just want to make
not,
sure.
Not VIPD.
Thank you for clarifying.
But
thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Francis Heiliger.